been having this conversation about, well, here's buying cars with customers a lot lately. In fact, me and DJ sat through the same conversation with two customers consecutively in the reception on Sunday. And it always comes back down to, can you fix that car?
Well, here's let's add a new one to your wrinkle, because this one I did not even think about, and people are not talking about this. Maybe it's because it's only rolling around now.
£50,000. Sorry, £50,000
for the Cyberster.
Could buy a Golf GTI for that.
I'm telling you. But here, and this is another reason. There's something that, again, with electric cars that I never thought about. So first of all, electric cars are heavier than typical cars. Where does that have an issue? Tires. And I didn't realize most electric cars are either all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, not necessarily front-wheel drive, because of torque, etc. Tire wear is 20 to 50% greater than with a typical internal combustion engine vehicle. Goodyear's saying 50% greater tire wear.
And usually on an EV, because of the environmentally conscious nature of the car, that can be debated. But because that's how it's perceived, they usually have low rolling resistance or low sound tires, which are more expensive than normal tires.
Well, and this was the complaint actually of someone, not a complaint, but an observation of someone in the UK who was driving an electric car, and this is what flagged it for me, and then I started seeing more and more comments, was these tires are expensive. And no one's mentioning that, typically maybe you've got 50, 75,000 kilometers before you're changing your tires, if you're lucky, 50,000 maybe. These people were saying, they were like 25,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers. Like, they were so much lower, and they needed to change them. The tires were worn out.
When we first started seeing all the Teslas on the road here, and we were getting them in, and they were wearing the tires out, we were thinking, that's probably build quality, that. They're not putting the alignment right, or, there's something not quite right with how they're put together. It's not. Like I say, it's the weight, and it's the torque, and it's the fact of all I'm going to say is 15, maybe 16 years ago in the UK, you could buy a VW Polo Blue Motion, which had an aerodynamic body kit on it, thin wheels on it, low resistance tires with sound minimizing technology, or whatever they called it at the time, that you could easily do 80 miles to a gallon on. Easily, you could do 80 miles to a gallon, and you'd have change from £16,000. And I just think, what's happened? We've gone backwards. I don't get it. Now, it's always been the case with and from my background, we don't deal with diesels here really, but all the VW group diesels, especially the front engine, front wheel drive ones, they did used to wear the front tyres out quite quick. You could do a set of tyres in 25,000 miles, but that was down to the fact that you were gunning it a lot of the time, and it's a diesel and it had a massive amount of torque and a big weighty engine over the front axle. So you could sort of coach yourself out of that. But we've not really gone anywhere. Like we haven't gone anywhere. I don't understand. I don't understand how there's even an argument about it now. I think there's enough data now. It's been a very, very large sample size now for a long time that you can see the data of the environmental impacts, both immediately and medium term, and the difference between EVs and internal combustion. And I think, you know what? We are ultimately, especially when it comes to cars, we are in a capitalist market. And the market will tell.
I thought there's an interesting one when we start talking about internal combustion engines and Toyota. Now, Toyota's obviously got interest in Mazda and what's the other one? Toyota, Mazda, and there's another car company that they're also pretty big with. mean, anyway, it'll come back to me. But the point is, what's Toyota doing right now? And Toyota is looking and working on creating better internal combustion engines, the next gen engine that can be used with hybrids. They're running on biofuels, target tougher emission standards, doubles down in its strategy for selling more EVs. And I just kind of went, as they're talking about, this is a quote from them. Oh, sorry, Toyota owns Subaru, 5% of Subaru, a fifth of Subaru, and roughly 5% of Mazda. It says these engines, the three companies will aim to optimize integration with motors, batteries, and other electric unit drives. And these efforts will help decarbonize internal combustion engines by making them compatible with alternative fuel sources such as e-fuels and biofuels, with the hope for more compact engines. So we'll revamp engine design by allowing for lower hoods. And I'm thinking, it's Toyota. It's like
you think it doesn't matter whether it's war, famine, natural disaster, whatever it may be, any part of the world where you see a news report on it, there's always a Toyota pickup truck in the background, still rolling. And that's down to the fact that if you can get something of any kind of oily substance into it, it will run. And electric vehicles leave people stuck, potentially, when there's an issue with the grid. And I don't think that I just don't think that it's in the world that we live in today that's not stable.
Yeah.
To rely on the power grid.
I'm with you.
And
everyone knows how we feel about these things.
Argue back and forth about the environmental impact of an electric car. Do whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is, the world isn't stable, and you're relying on the electric power grid.
You know what? You want to know what gets me? And again, it's with this whole electric. It's not even electric mobility. Is everyone now that you see on electric scooters and things, it's like, people, get back on a bicycle, get back on a push scooter.
Yeah.
Get some exercise.
Yeah.
I understand you want to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
The cost is, you got to spend a pretty fortune buying those things. They're going to break. So just be aware that you're going to have to replace it. You can't get it fixed.
Yeah.
You got to charge it. Someone's got to pay for that. And all of that increase, I'd love to see the data on increased use of the fuel here and electricity here. A lot of it's generated by oil or natural gas. So that's got a carbon tax on it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, and just get some exercise. It's just, come on.
Yeah. Look, I mean, here it's a little bit more understandable when it comes to now.
Yeah,
now
it
it's
gets
getting
hot.
and to use one of those things.
But it's always been hot. People come, come here, they know it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you can't use them on the metro now.
No.
So that's probably reduced their usage a little. But, you can still take them on buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
The community is using those, going to be ganging up on me now when they see me drive by.
They gang up on you on the road anyway. Sometimes it's a
when
nightmare.
they zip by and you don't hear them. It's like, it's bad enough the motorcycle delivery guys, but then you've got a scooter or whatever, and you don't hear it, you don't see it, and then there's just this little hat, a little helmet going by.
Sometimes a helmet.
Sometimes, yeah. I'm like, whoa, what is that? It's like, are you nuts?
Yeah.
I saw someone on the highway with one the other day on their shoulder. I'm thinking, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Crazy.
Gotta get to where I gotta go, dude.
Yeah. It's not a good idea on the roads, I don't think. But it's happened so fast.
Yeah.
You have to have a permit for them now. But
do they enforce it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How many, even though the police are very, very well respected here, how many of them are there? The ratio isn't there to stop everybody on the road. And the police really wanting to block the roads up in the morning with traffic stops, and it's busy enough with rush hour anyway. You actually
just today was flat tire day.
Oh no!
I'm seeing cars flat tires and just breakdowns. I was five vehicles today, and I'm just going, it's the heat.
Yeah, it's gone, hasn't it? It's flipped.
And the humidity.
Yeah, the last 3 or 4 days.
So suddenly we got heat and humidity.
Yeah.
And vehicles, for whatever reason, there seems to be a temperature where they run beautifully. I think it's more to do with the temperature of the driver. Oh,
You get so stressed.
Oh, yeah.
So stressful.
Yeah.
And think of all those people that are in there that have got, ACs that haven't been serviced, so they don't work very well when they're sat traffic, and fans that aren't working, so they're not blowing very well in traffic. These sort of things have a massive effect.
With the anxiety, when all that starts to kick in and you hit traffic, and now you're wondering, am I going to overheat because of this? And I'm hot, and what's going to happen with my vehicle?
I've got a meeting, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to get home, and it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And I can't afford a new car, and I can't afford the repairs. What am I going to do?
There are no cars to buy because they've all been flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's you can tell, even if you're sat in an air-conditioned cocoon, just looking out, you can tell, it must be hot today.
Yeah.
Like you say, tyres, breakdowns, and just genuine mad behaviour on the road when it's home.
I wonder, I've got to send a message to RTA. RTA is the Road and Transport Authority here in Dubai. But there's a couple pieces of road that I travel regularly, and I regularly see flat tires. And my suspicion is it's from one of those road reflectors that's got a sharp edge, because it's constant. Like, it's always, every second day there's 2 or 3 cars pulled over with flat tires in the same place, coming on the same road, and it's just too coincidental that they're all in the same place.
Do you know something? I don't like the idea of forced surveillance. I don't like the old idea that my phone's been listening to me all the time we've been talking, and all I'm going to see is adverts for Teslas when I go on social media.
Mine wanted to use Gemini at one point. I said,
mine just did it, just flashed up.
Yours too. Or both of our phones wanted to use AI.
Yeah.
But we didn't ask for AI. So.
But, it's like the ability. I wear a Whoop band, right?
Yeah.
I wear a Whoop band. And Whoop had over 2,000 users.
If you haven't seen a Whoop band, go and look them up online.
Yeah.
You've absolutely seen people wearing them.
Yeah.
You just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
If you're out of the loop, you're out of the. If you're out of the Whoop, you're out of the Whoop. But go take a look, because they are pretty darn sweet piece of tracking.
They're very, very good for tracking data, but they had data on COVID in late 2019, early 2020 that showed respiratory rate increase before any of the symptoms, and even before a positive test. So then they used them on the PGA Tour, which is why they were able to come back to playing golf professionally before any other sport. And there were people testing negative on the Tuesday to play on the Thursday that Whoop were picking up an increased respiratory rate on. So they were saying you need to get retested. And then they were tested on the Thursday morning and they were positive.
Yeah.
That's just because of big data.
Yeah. And
if you extrapolate that out to, if you've got a flat tire, you can just pin on a map. We've got Waze maps here, and people can update it live, so it updates live. If you could pin on a map, flat tire, flat tire, flat tire, flat tire, flat tire, if the RTA incentivized that, so that they said, look, if you have a breakdown, it's a flat tire or something that, any kind of breakdown, don't worry about that. We'll have someone figure the data out. We'll sift through the data. But you have a breakdown or have to stop on the road, I don't know, at the expense of potentially a fine for not reporting it. Just report it. And then they see, like you just said, that road, hang on a minute, this month we've had 14 flat tyres on this same stretch or these cars have gone the same distance or travelled the same route. They've all had flat tyres. Then they can look into that and say, okay, let's go back and check. We'll check the road. Oh, like you say, there's a busted reflector there.
Well, and I'm thinking, if you look at the flat tires and all of those people would compare, it's, there might be the anomaly that there's a nail somewhere, but if it's a puncture or if it's a cut, then you're going to know what you're looking for. Yeah. And I'm thinking the data is there.
It's so easy. I think now that sort of thing, that is what
would save our lives.
That is
literally.
It could do. That is what's being connected to the internet with everything.
You know what the challenge is with big data? It's not that it's being collected. It's been collected for a long time. The challenge is figuring out, okay, what can I do with it, and what do I need to program into the big data to ask it to spit out for me?
Yeah,
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
So programmers are great at programming.
Yeah, I remember a series on the TV about 15 years ago with Stephen Hawking. And he was talking about this sort of stuff when phones first started to become super smart and they were tracking everything. And I remember him saying, like, there were people using it to how to plan towns and cities and where to put hotels and where to put restaurants and where to put doctors and hospitals and schools, because they were working out where people travel. And they were saying, this zone, there's a lot of type 2 diabetes. Why is that? Well, that's because there's a huge density of population, and then there's a school, a restaurant, a doctor's, a post office, a grocery store, a pub, and a park, all within 100 meters. So they don't go anywhere. All the restaurants they've got are fast food. There's no exercise equipment on the park. There's no running track. There's no swimming pools. There's no, there's the doctor that's there he's been there 55 years and his methods haven't changed, and all this kind of stuff they can look into just by seeing where people walk and what their health history is. And that's fascinating, and that's a real good way to use data. And the way we used to do a similar thing with cars, we had to report anything and everything on a new car for the first 3 months on a new model to the factory. So, if when the new Scirocco came out in 2008, there was problems with the brackets on the rear hinge on the tailgate. They used to creak. So mechanics were reporting that on PDI, pre-delivery inspection, or first service, or whatever it may be, if it had gone to a fleet user. And then the factory saw it and were like, there's a problem with these. Looked into it, and then they sent a proactive service campaign out.
Yeah.
So every time one came in, we changed the brackets, put the dampers back on, and away you go. And that's just using data.
Yeah. And
it's very, very easy. And if you think about it, the road and traffic one, amazing. That would be such a good use of it. And they know where traffic jams are now.
Yeah.
Like when we just had the rain, we'd had a few little flash floods over the last few months prior to that. And where we live, it was really bad at the bottom of the hill. And when they knew the rain was coming out, lo and behold, there's a pump there.
Yeah.
And it never flooded that area, even though it had the last time, and this was 5 times worse. It never did because they had the pump ready, because they knew it was going to flood. So they've used it.
They've used big data successfully.
Yeah. And I think it really, really benefits the motor industry. It benefits the manufacturers, and I think it will be very, very beneficial to road users.
So we've thrown a bone out to the RTA.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what we like to do here. So we're going to submit a suggestion.
Yeah.
Make it better for everyone. There we go. That's what the show is all about, helping everybody. Glenn, you know what? It's time to wrap up this podcast. And a big thank you to everyone at 100.3 who are listening in the studio, on the road, while you're running. Folks who are catching us via Spotify or Google, whatever platform. We're all over the place. Thank you. Share what we're doing with your friends. And a huge thank you to the folks here at PowerWorks Garage. Glenn Power, thank you.
Thank you
for making this happen. We'll do it all again real soon.